Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast, all you sassy Latinas. This is where you come to hear stories that resonate with you, that lift your spirits, lighten your burdens, and bring the comunidad to you. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, and also the creator of this content. If there's anything you'd like to share, please reach out to us on our Instagram social media at Lifelinks or through our website at thelinks.com. That's LNXX. We have amazing guests come on and share. If you'd like to be a guest, come join us. If you want to sit and listen, we are grateful. So sit back, have your cafecito, maybe your vino, whatever you like. We are bringing the sisterhood to you. Hola, chicas. Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast on this first day of March, the beginning of Women's History Month that we add on to Black History Month because our narrative is spoken 24/7 year-round on this podcast. We don't stop our inclusion just because the month changed. How many of you out there thought that we might be heading into some true spring weather earlier? It was all about that in February, and instead, woof! Wow, what is this Arctic blizzard that we're all experiencing? We have snow here in Oakland. That hasn't happened since like 1976 for us. For all of you out there, really stay safe in this craziness, both in the cold, in the driving. Don't get too excited about being out in that snow right now. It is cray-cray out there. But I'm taking this as a sign that things are really going to change for us this year, amigas. We are entering some things that have never happened before. So why not us? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today's Pod Club episode is a great way to start that upward climb, that upward explosion to really great heights. We're taking all the gems of last week's episode with Leticia Lopez. Did you catch that one? Changing your life with positive thinking. And really emphasizing what these gems mean for all of us. Not just in relation to what we heard, but really stepping back and thinking, wow, am I doing that too? So today we're starting off with the idea of speaking so you can be heard. That was really the main emphasis of Leticia's episode last week. Speaking so you can be heard, especially in those difficult conversations or passionate proposals. But we're really diving in at the end of the episode, talking about why we don't take risks for ourselves. So even after we set our tone to be heard and to get what we want, are we taking big risks? Or are we just getting to the next best thing? That's scarcity mentality. When we only want to get a little better than what either we've done before or our parents have done before. But we're not playing it safe today, amigas, because we're talking about when good enough isn't enough. But first, wasn't Leticia so amazing? She was so powerful and inspirational in talking about that positivity of thought. Her demeanor, her tone, and most importantly, her words, what she actually said, provided such powerful guidance that all of us could adopt instantaneously. So did you give it a try? I totally did. Now, many of you might have already received this in your corporate training or been told this growing up, maybe learning it along your way, or even just have this naturally in you. I would say I do not. So this was a great lesson for me, and I was just following her as I listened in our own interview. So if you recall, one point she brought up was removing the emotion from your discussion, especially if that emotion is anger. And there's a lot of reasons where we might have anger these days. We get emotional about the lack of women's rights being taken away, trans rights being taken away, Black Lives Matter, lack of pay equity, so much to be passionately involved with and get angry over. But by removing emotion from our voice, not our words, but our voice, Leticia taught us we are more likely to be heard. We have to speak in a manner that we are heard. Let that sink in, because this applies to any given day, and it can be tricky. If you're like me, totally a passionate person who gets really excited just by life, and that enthusiasm can come out fast and intense, whether I'm talking about an episode of a show I'm watching or fighting for that pay equity for women. So when I was practicing the tips that Leticia shared, I had to really have a conscious focus on how I was stating things. Now, this was very unlike me. This took really consolidated effort. But what I realized while I was speaking this way to a group, the calmness of my voice did not leave room for others to talk over me. The tone and the speed of my voice provided this framework where I was heard because everyone else settled into this calm. Don't you feel that sometimes? That is the most difficult part of a discussion? Being heard. Let alone acting on what you're saying, but just being heard can be so difficult, especially when the topic is really important to us or one we are passionate about. But then another amazing aspect happened while I was speaking, and I didn't see this coming. And Leticia didn't mention this, even after we talked for hours and hours, but I pulled it from my own experience. As the tone of the room began to mimic my calm demeanor, my sense of leading the discussion without emotion in my voice, remaining calm and listening to my words, I began to gain more confidence. I felt in charge of the situation and could lead the direction of the meeting towards my intentions. Definitely didn't see that coming. Love it. Try it out next time. Anything that gives you a confidence boost is worth trying and practicing over and over again. Because not only are you being heard, but you're becoming more confident in what you're saying. People are listening. And you have hopes, therefore, that what you're speaking towards, your intention of being heard, the goal of what you're saying, is actually going to happen. Now, the second gem from last week's episode with Leticia. When she spoke about loving ourselves, did you see that reel on our social media? Oh, that's something I just play at night to myself before I go to bed. Loving yourself. Again, we may have heard this before, and hopefully we have been practicing this as best as we can. But Leticia brought in that added gem that really had me leaning back in my chair. She said, and I quote, and it's on our reel, in her real voice, "I think the biggest thing to realize that if you live your life as a person who loves themselves, then you're willing to take those risks. So a person who loves themselves isn't going to turn away any sort of opportunities. They're not going to feel as if they can't do something. They're going to feel as though they can." Bam! This really hits on the Pod Club gem that I really want to spin into a complete episode. Loving yourself so much that you have dropped the fear and realize that no matter what you have to do, no matter the risk, you are worth it. You are worth that reward that's coming. But that element of taking risks can only be done if we value who we are, love ourselves, and believe we are worth the reward when a risk pays off. Let me say that again. We are worth the reward when the risk pays off. So why then can it be so difficult for us to take that risk? Because sometimes as first-gen Latinas, we have been raised in households where the risk has already been taken. When our parents left everything they knew, all their friends, all their family, the home that they loved, they risked it all to come to a new country. And regardless of what life was like for them once they got here, at least they were safe. They had done it. They had made it here, and the risk paid off. They were raising their family and hoping for a better life for them. At this point, God bless them, at this point, they put all their efforts in raising their children to be successful, to make this huge risk pay off. Okay, does that sound familiar? Were you raised with the expectations that you had to succeed professionally? Perhaps even told to blend in and not cause trouble because that would be a bad risk? Were you expected to get a higher education because they can't take that away from you? Do you hear the fear in those sentiments? Do you hear the we must play it safe? Don't cause trouble. Just get the next best thing. Now, of course, when we were growing up, we loved our parents. We already respected them so greatly for what they had done for us. We respect all the elders who have come here to give us the life we would not have had, or the goodness in our life that we would not have had. So we did follow their rules. We followed their expectations because we ourselves did not want to ruin everything that they had already done. But this gets us cornered a bit into scarcity mentality. The scarcity mindset has us thinking that we shouldn't take big risks. Because what if we fail? Or take a sideways path, as Leticia said. Why would we risk getting to a better place than our parents? Why not just play it safe and at least do better than the generation before? It's good enough. But is it good enough? Aren't we denying ourselves our own dreams at that point? Is getting a higher education our goal because at least it's better than our parents who may not have had that chance or opportunity for higher education? Or is that just getting us trapped in a corner that we don't enjoy living in? Don't risk what's good in life because at least it's better than before. Now, Leticia had a different idea that is so powerful and it helps prevent us getting trapped in a corner. And that goes back to the quote. Love yourself so much that you believe you are worth the risk. You're not accountable to anyone else but yourself when it comes to your dreams. Leave space in your life to have your dreams rather than the dreams of those before you. So dream big, take risks, believe that you are worth the great reward that might come from it. You are worth investing in yourself. You are worth the learning experiences, even if it doesn't go as planned. You are worth taking risks to reach your dream. And that dream is not in comparison to the ones your parents had. It's not the next best thing that you should be afraid of losing. Your dream is something your parents and our ancestors couldn't even imagine. And you are so worth that dream coming true. That's how this podcast got started. And I can't wait to see where it goes, thanks to this amazing community of listeners who support us by following or subscribing to the Lifelinks podcast on any of the podcast streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, or even our website at thelinks.com. That's LNXX. I love getting your comments and ideas through our social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Lifelinks. And I can't wait for you to tune in next Wednesday with our featured guest, Damale Gonzalez, who I met through the We All Grow Amigas platform. When I read her powerful story about journeying back to Puerto Rico with her mother to discover her home that she had left behind. Damale describes herself as a Brooklynite, Williamsburg native of Puerto Rican descent who is an identity and culture writer of everyday life experiences to give rise to conscious minds. I learned so much about Puerto Rico, both historical and current day, that just blows my mind. For instance, am I the only one who doesn't know that Puerto Rico can only import food from specific companies? And if those companies don't sell to the country or don't have stock, then Puerto Rico has to rely only on themselves, even as a U.S. territory. Yeah, talk about conscious minds. Minds blown. You want to hear more about all of this next week with Damale Gonzalez. So follow or subscribe to this podcast and you won't miss out. It will automatically show up on your phone. Share your women's history stories worldwide. Dream big, amigas. Take risks. Your dream, your worth is bigger and doesn't need to be compared to what was already done. Step into your truth, ladies. Ciao. Really appreciate the time you take to rate and review the podcast. Get the backstory and what you've heard here today and reach out to us at thelinks.com. That's LNXX. Because it's about time, it's about us. Stay in the groove on our social media at Lifelinks and get ready to make your move, ladies. Viva!